Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Chuck Cullen. I'm the current president. How's it now? Okay, how we doing now? All right, I think we got the sound fixed now. Everyone can hear me in the back? Who wants to hear me? Okay. Well, anyway, again, welcome everyone. This is our fall meeting for the CMERA group. Again, my name is Chuck Cullen. I'm the president of the organization currently. I wanted to go ahead and welcome everyone, as I said. Tim? We're going to call the meeting to order. Oop. And we're going to go through this meeting rather rapidly. Okay, we'll start with just a brief overview of the agenda. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll have the officers' reports. We'll have a brief presentation about senior scams. We'll have an opportunity for questions and answers, and then we will adjourn for the day because it is a lovely day out there today. So I will officially call this meeting to order and move on to the first thing we will do is the Pledge of Allegiance. We have our flag here, so we stand and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Also, I want to just take a few moments to remember those who are no longer with us or who are suffering from some kind of ailment because it happens a lot with this group. So let's pause for a few seconds and think about those people. I especially want to think about remembering Paul Smith, who recently passed, who was a longtime member of CMERA and a longtime officer of the organization. All right, thank you very much. Moving on, just a brief overview of CMERA for those who are forgotten. First of all, basically our job here with CMERA is to enhance the quality of life for all retired members of the Cincinnati retirement system. We do that for advocating for the interests of everyone. We offer information and education. We monitor the implementation of the collaborative settlement agreement, and we partner with individuals and whoever else we know who can help us to make sure that the stability of the Cincinnati retirement system remains. Okay. All right, just briefly go over the CMERA governing board. First, I'll introduce the officers. I've already introduced myself. Over on my right over here, we have Steve Dietrich, the vice president, who's also serving as acting treasurer. Raise your hand so we know who to. Jane Kettlehack, who is secretary. She is not unable to be here today due to a wedding in the family. We also have two appointed members of the executive committee, and that's Tom Gamble, who is at the end there, and Kathy Ratz, who's at the end. Also, our governing board, besides the executive committee, has a series of, we have some directors, names there on the list. We have associate directors. I think Ann is here today. I saw her, and then also I think Barb is here today. So we have at least two of the associate directors are here. And John Hines, I'm sorry, who's here. John helps out here with the church. We also have a lot of volunteers. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but we have some. We have, first I always want to point out and compliment Don Hutchins, who recently had hip surgery. So he's unable to be here today, but he's the one that takes all our income or checks and so forth, make sure that it gets to the bank and keeps up our records and so forth. So, and also we have some of the people who volunteered at the front desk. I appreciate their help. And also I appreciate the members who help out whenever we need some assistance, like in writing to council or appearing before council to help show that some cause that they're trying to act on, that they're acting on our behalf and not someone else's behalf. So that's a little bit about CMERA and the organization of it. Let me go ahead and begin with my report. The first thing, I want to just kind of go over the goals that we had for this year. The first one is to monitor the city actions regarding the pension and benefits. In that regards, most of the members, I think if not all of the members of the executive committee, met with the new director of the retirement system this year to talk to him, so to meet him and put a face to that name. We also examined when the 24 city budget came out. We reviewed that to see what problems or issues we have. City actually increased the amount of percentage of the, in other words, they're putting more money into the pension fund that they had previously done. It used, for a number of years, almost 10 years, it was like 16.25%. They raised it last year and they raised it again this year. So that's a positive for the city. The other thing that the city had done just past Wednesday is that they approved an additional $2 million to the pension fund from the unappropriated surplus from last fiscal year. So the city has made, I guess, what I would consider at least baby steps towards helping out the pension fund. The other thing we looked at was the documents related to the Futures Commission. That came out about 6 months ago, and the one recommendation in there had to do with taking the Cincinnati retirement system and basically merging it with the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System, which probably, let's just flatly say it would not be in our best interest. At this point, the city has not made any recommendations regarding that. They have issued a preliminary report a few months ago, basically saying that they need more time to evaluate it, and that's essentially where it stands right now. I'm not aware of any other actions that's going on regarding to that, and unfortunately we may not know until they make some kind of decision, but hopefully we have talked to council members. We wrote to the mayor and asked them to make sure that we are not, as the report says, we're supposed to be some kind of a large albatross that's dragging down the city. And I assured them that no, we're not a large albatross. We are a benefit to the city, and we have been for many years, particularly when we were working with them. The other thing we have done is to monitor the Cincinnati collaborative settlement agreement. There was a settlement on some issues earlier this year. I think Tom may mention a little bit about that when he talks. Move on. I mentioned about the Futures Commission already, so we can skip this, but we keep our eye on that to see what City Council is going to do. I suspect something will come out in the next 6 months as the next budget year unfolds. That's just my guess, but we'll see what happens. Okay. The other goal we had for this year was to improve our communication. We did that by updating our website. And I'll talk about that in a minute. We issued some monthly updates on the website. There's now a column there called CMERA Chronicles, which I put in there every month. It's on the website, so it's free to anyone to look at, and it's under President's Information or News or whatever it's called. But every month I have an article in there updating members on everything from news regarding the retirement system, the retirement board, anything else that may be of interest, including grandma's recipe for chocolate chip cookies or anything like that. You never know what's going to be there, but you're always welcome to read it. We also, at least I made sure that all the directors and associate directors are invited to all of our meetings, not just the governing board meetings. So they always get agendas, so they know what the executive committee is up to, so they're not surprised by anything. Moving on to the website upgrades. As I mentioned, it's a little hard to see, but if I can. Under member information, there's a whole series of things now that you can look up, everything from the chat room, Kroger's Community Reward, President Messages. That's where you'll find the CMERA Chronicles. So we expanded that and updated that. As far as next year, preliminarily we haven't approved the goals yet, but obviously the first one will be to continue monitoring the city actions regarding our pension and benefits. And the other goal that I have proposed is to try to increase our active membership. As you know, it's been difficult over the last 10 to 12 years to recruit new members to CMERA, since we no longer get information from the city when employees retire. They used to send us this information, and so we could contact them and ask them if they want to join CMERA. Without that information, it's difficult to know who's retiring and when they're retiring, so we rely on other people to kind of word of mouth to get that information out. So in regard to that, I just wanted to take a minute here to, while we have some people here, to let you know that one of the things we're working on is for speakers, for presentations here. We have, I've contacted AARP. They don't return calls. I contact the Cincinnati Bar Association, see if they have a speaker available. They haven't gotten back to me yet. And these are so forth, so we have a couple members have made some suggestions for speakers in the future, and we will try to follow through on that. But if there's anyone you think might be helpful to make a presentation, a brief presentation to the members here at one of our meetings, feel free to pass that along to me. Same with articles. If you want to read something that we can provide some information or knowledge about, let us know. We can't solve all the world's problems, but we can at least try to answer your questions as it relates to your retirement. Credit cards is another issue that we've been dealing with, whether or not should we accept credit cards, because there is a cost involved and our dues are relatively small. Well, they're not small, they're minute, but we're keeping them at $10. It seems to work out best for right now. It may not always be the case, but we want to keep them at $10 as long as we can. If we use credit cards, obviously there's fees associated with that. And I guess I wanted to take a little straw poll, I guess. If we were accepting credit cards, how many people, just by raising your hand, how many people would actually use a credit card either online, particularly online, yeah. Because everyone preferred just sending a check in or paying by cash when they get here? Okay, that seems to be, well, I didn't see anyone raise their hand about credit cards, so I guess the acceptance of the checks and cash seems to be the prevalent, so we will keep that in consideration as we continue to deliberate. Anything else, I appreciate, we will have some opportunity for questions and answers towards the end, so if you have anything else for me regarding that, about our speakers or what we can do to help improve the meetings, we're all for listening to that. So, okay, I want to turn this over now to Steve, our Vice President and Acting Treasurer.
Thank you, Chuck. Could I have the next slide, please, Tim? Again, I want to thank everybody for coming here this morning on this beautiful day. I also want to thank Tim Kraus up there behind the desk. He is a member of the church here, and he's volunteering his time and missing this beautiful Sunday morning or Saturday morning to be here with us. So what I have up here right now is our expenses. So if you look at the column on the left is basically what we had budgeted for 2024, and $8,850 was our budgeted amount. And if you look at the listing, like the newsletter and bank fees and all that, you'll notice that there's 4 big items, basically the newsletter, the insurance, the postage, and the meeting cost. The total of these 4 items is $7,700, which is basically like over 85% of our budget. So basically, 85 to 90% of our budget goes to supporting the newsletter and the postage fees, the meeting expenses, and the necessary insurance. The middle column is basically our to-date spending. So right now, we're about 9.5 months into this year. So these are basically actual expenses as to everything up to about a week ago. Most of the year's expenses are behind us. The cost for this meeting is the only significant remaining expense for this year. And we're projecting that we'll be slightly over budget for '24. But time will tell since we still have 2.5 months to go. The right column is our projected budget for next year. This is a rollover budget. You'll notice it's pretty much almost the same as the 2024 budget. This has not been approved by our executive committee yet, and our next executive committee meeting will be in November. And at that time, we'll have a much better idea of our actual expenses, since we'll have 11 months of expenses for 2024. And this will help us decide if this proposed budget for next year is acceptable. Next slide, please, Tim. Okay, this is our income slide. The column on the left is our 2024 budget, and again, we were projecting that we would be getting $8,850. The center column is basically our year-to-date totals, and it's if you total those up, it's $4,540. Again, this is for the first 9 months of the year. What it doesn't show is like all the renewals from today that you guys have been renewing your memberships. And since Don's been under the weather, we've got quite a bit of renewals that have come in since the newsletter hit your mailboxes several weeks ago. So this is going to change a lot. The right column is our projected income again for next year. And again, the executive committee will be renewing this in November, and we'll decide if this is correct. We're estimating that with dues coming in from this meeting and from the newsletter, and that we should be at least able to raise $2,500 to $3,000 more. So it's really kind of interesting. Last year, donations accounted for 20% of our total income. And it looks like this year, if the rest of the year, the last 3 months maintain like they are now, that donations might be as much as 35 or 40% of our total income. So I just want to take the time to say right now, thanks a lot for anybody who's been donating any extra money. That helps us from raising our dues and keeping them at $10. So thanks a lot, and please keep up the good work. I just want to end my talk with how fortunate we really are to have you know, we had a great group of dedicated individuals who some 40 plus years ago got together and started CMERA. They were really visionaries. A lot of our benefits that we have today, I think, have been because of the work of these individuals. In fact, when I get together with some of my friends that have retired from UC, I'm almost kind of embarrassed to talk about our benefits because they're basically the OPERS, the teachers, some of my friends in Kentucky, they're all paying, they get a stipend for insurance now. You know, what we're paying is really nice, and their COLAs, we don't have a compound COLA anymore, but it's 3%, and that's more than most. And I know that they would be really jealous if they saw what our benefits are. So that's an important part of what CMERA does. So that's the end of my financial report, and I guess I'm turning it over to Kathy.
Got a question to you.
Sure.
What's the decision to send the newsletter? How's that favored? Is it active members that it's sent to? Or?
Right now, currently, we only send it to dues-paying members. We have in the past, once that I can remember, that we sent it out to anybody we had an address for, a valid address. It's actually, you know, I don't know if you've been checking on postage rates, but it is a very expensive thing for us to send a newsletter out to everybody. But no, right now, if you get a newsletter, you're current on your dues.
Well, we also send it out for members who have lapsed maybe for 1 year because maybe, you know, they forget, whatever, and then, so to encourage them. So it's not just the active members, but those who were active members but dropped out for whatever reason. We're trying to encourage them to come back by sending them newsletters.
Looks like one more question. I think this, I'm going off of memory now. I think it was right around 700. Anything else? Okay, Kathy?
Thanks, Steve. Good morning. If I can just start by saying, if we can save questions, I know it's appropriate to ask questions about the numbers, but we do need to, if we're recording the meeting, we will post it for people who can't be here. To get the questions on the video, we really need you to use the mics. And so that's one reason we're just asking for the questions and answers, if you can, to just hold them to the end. So anyway, my name is Kathy Rotz. My title with CMERA is Sergeant at Arms. I'm going to try to be relatively brief today, but I'm going to talk about three things: healthcare and open enrollment, retirement board and the recent election, and then CMERA, the executive board election. So on healthcare, the open enrollment period starts actually this week or next week, Monday. Can you just go back one slide, please? Thanks, Tim. So it's from October 14th to November 15th. There is a mailing that is in process, according to the director of the retirement department. So I don't know whether it'll be this week or next week, but you'll get a mailing with the specific information and about the plans and the premiums that are available. So the medical insurance, so that's doctors, hospitalizations, and prescription drugs. There's no changes to what's being offered, so it's the same that we have now is going to be offered for next year. The eye care, the vision, contacts, vision testing, glasses, that kind of stuff. Again, that is the same that we have now, so it won't change for next year. Next slide, please. Oops. The dental plan, though, we do have another option. So the provider this coming year, in 2025, will still be Superior Dental Care. We have the option of choosing the current plan, which is what we have now, or a buy-up option. And if I could have the next slide, please. It's pretty hard to see, but the buy-up option for about $20 extra per month provides a higher benefit max, lower deductible, various just higher levels of most of the benefits that we have now. I think most of us remember maybe 5 or so years ago, we had this higher level of dental, and the retirement department thought it would be helpful for seniors to have a lower premium. It might encourage more people to use dental care. And so they basically gave us a lower level plan at a lower premium. That wasn't everybody's preference, and so now finally we will have a choice. So you can stay with a lower level, lower cost plan, or you can opt to pay a little more premium and have higher benefits. One thing I will say, so when we switched to Superior Dental, some people found that their dentist either did not accept it or were not in network and accepted it, but balance billed. I would say that it would be a good idea, I've done this myself already, to check with your dentist and see if they do accept, and they will be accepting Superior Dental. So that'll help you make your decision too. You might even opt out of dental insurance if you want to stay with your same dentist. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that the retirement department's healthcare consultant gave us a report a couple months ago and talked about, among other things, talked about the dental care insurance coverage, and just made the comment that it's becoming more and more prevalent or more and more common in Cincinnati area region that dentists are just not accepting any kind of dental insurance. So I don't know if anybody's here has experienced that, but apparently it may be a trend that some people are looking at. I see people taking pictures of the slide. Please know that this is not the complete list of all the benefits. I actually do have a page that shows those, but also it will be in your open enrollment mailing. So you'll get more details when you get that mailing. Give me the next slide, please. So back to the medical plan, like I said, it's the same offering that we have now. You do have a choice though. You can take it or you can leave it. So if you decide that you don't want to use the city's, or you want to look at some of the other Medicare Advantage plans or what have you, you can do that. You don't have to choose the city's plan. If you do decide, and you will get more and more mailings as the end of the year approaches. I think December it kind of peaks from all kinds of insurance companies everywhere. They come out of the woodwork, you see them on TV, try this Medicare Advantage, you don't have to pay premiums, it covers everything and takes you, out to dinner or whatever. So they all sound great in the ads and the commercials. And you are free to choose one of those plans if you like. Just keep in mind that you can only have one plan, so you can't stay on the city plan and choose another one. And if they will find out, I guess there's information sharing among the plans or with Medicare, so it's not possible to have two plans and not be found out about it. So if you do decide to opt out, and some people do the math and figure out it's better for them to try something else. You can get back to the city plan, but you have to wait till the following year, the following open enrollment to be able to do that. So just keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Do be super careful though, because a lot of these plans, they're very full of promises. They sound very attractive, but when you look at them, sometimes you find, well, it's the premium, there's no premium or what have you, but you can only select from a very small group of providers, or there's a lot of caveats to those plans. So some of the ways that you can compare plans is to Medicare.gov actually has a plan comparison tool. I spent a little time on it this week, and it actually shows some of the biggest plans available and what the premium costs are, and helps you compare with that. AARP on their website does have information. The Ohio Department of Insurance actually has a site or a service, Ohio Senior Health Insurance Information Program, or OSHIP. And you can Google that, and they actually have a lot of information about the various Medicare Advantage plans, various Medicare, traditional Medicare coverage and so forth. So just be careful when you make your decision about whether to stay with the city. And I think Steve mentioned that he's noticed, just from personal experience, I have too, just talking to family and friends, our premiums are relatively low for the level of service that we get. Our deductibles are relatively low. The CSA, it has a lot to do with that. It preserved our health care, but it also defines the amount of premium that we pay. The premium that we pay is a percentage of what the insurance company charges the retirement department for that coverage. And so a lot depends on when you're retired, what group you're in, and so forth, but it's still relatively low compared to what many other people are paying. Okay, let me shift to the Retirement Board of Trustees. So I only want to mention this. It was in the newsletter, but I'll just kind of go over it again. So we had some questions about what the heck happened. We got a mailing, they were calling for nominations, and that was it. They said there would be an election. We never heard anything else. But what happened was the nominations equaled the number of slots. So there are two active elected employees, active employee elected retiree trustees, or retirement trustees. There are 3 retiree trustees that are elected, and then 4 are appointed by the mayor. So at the most recent election, as it turns out, there was 1 active slot open. There were 2 retiree slots open. There was 1 candidate for each one of those slots. So you never heard anything else because there never was an election, because the number equaled the number of openings. I want to mention, as of right now, there are term limits for retirement board trustees. And the term limits we're limited to 3 4-year terms, and that's it. So as the municipal code reads now, after your terms are up, you can never be a trustee again. The retirement board has been working with council to try to make the change so that it would not be impossible to serve in the future. But the point being that a lot of people have kind of continued on in the same role for a long time and will be termed out. And so we need people to consider serving as a trustee. It's a lot of work, but it's also very gratifying work. So, next slide, please. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is sort of the same story, actually, although there are no term limits. Well, actually, I think we do have some term limits on our bylaws. So, every year, CMERA's executive committee has 2 openings for officers. This year, it's the vice president slot and the secretary slot. This year, the only nominees are the existing vice president, Steve, and the existing secretary, Jane Kettle-Hake. So both are willing to serve again, and because we had no other nominations, they basically are being reappointed to these slots. Our terms are 2 years. Once again, we need people to step up and consider serving as an officer for CMERA. I think that's it for me. I do want to just answer a question that came up to me before the meeting. So the question is about our discussion forum, which used to be called CMERA QT. Now it's CMERAgroups.io. If you are subscribed to this, well, let me say, what we've been recently experiencing is that some members have been unsubscribed. They just get a notice in their email, you're unsubscribed if you want to resubscribe here. And it's not because of anything that we at CMERA have done, so we were a little puzzling over this for quite some time. And what we learned was that if a member of the group, if a message should go into their spam folder or their junk mail folder, and they delete it while it's in that folder, then that sends a message to the platform administrator that says, you know, this is being considered junk mail. And what happens is that they are automatically unsubscribed because of that. Now, that sounds pretty easy, you know, if you're deleting stuff from your junk mail or not. Well, some email applications actually have a function where your spam folder or your junk mail folder will delete its own contents over, you know, after a certain period of time. So that's a possibility. If you do get a message that you've been unsubscribed, that message should also include information about how to resubscribe. But also check your spam folder and see if there are any messages in there. And the way that you deal with that, if there are, if it's automatically being sent to spam or junk mail, the way to address that is to put it in your contact list or your address book. Put CMERAgroups.io there, and then that will flag it as not junk, or help flag it as not junk. So I think that's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Tom Gamble. And remember, we'll have questions at the end. And remember, we need to use the microphones. Okay. Can we?
I can speak loud enough, maybe.
Well, let's just get a microphone to you.
If you're interested in the trustee.
Thank you. This just helps us with the recording.
If you're interested in being a trustee for the retirement plan, where do you show an interest? Is that on the website?
Where do you show a what?
Where do you apply for it? How do you let people know that you want to serve?
Oh, well, you let people know you want to serve as a trustee of the retirement board?
Yeah.
With the mailing that you got, did you get a mailing this summer?
Yes.
Call it, you know, so with that, you do that follow the process that's outlined in that mailing. So basically what it says is, it shows you how, or explains how to do it. You need to petition, and the way to petition, there's a form you use, you get signatures from fellow retirees to nominate yourself.
Okay,
And
is that
then
on
you
the
submit that.
website?
It's on the city's website.
On the city website?
Yes, we can put it on CMERA's website. The next opening for a retiree will be when my term is over this term, and that will be in July of 2026.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'd like to take my place, I will gladly open my seat. Thanks.
No, she wouldn't. Next slide. I'm here to talk about several things. One is the Member Direct program that the city just started for retirees. It's a program that cities had going on for active employees for some time. It's a program that now available to us. And what it actually provides is your ability, if you sign up for it, to actually get your federal forms from the city through the internet versus waiting for the mailing. Also, you get your pension check stubs that way and other information from the city's retirement office. So there's some advantages to a lot of retirees to sign up for this kind of thing, especially if you have problems with getting your mail, which I do, and it makes it a little bit more convenient. And you can go back in historical records too that way, and this helps you make sure you have an accurate accounting for everything that's going on under your name as far as a pensioner is concerned. The advantage to the city, basically, it reduces cost, mailing cost, printing costs, etc. So, if you want to sign up for this, you go to you got a mailing on this last month, the month before, but you go to crsmemberdirect.org and sign up for it. It's crsmember.org, direct.org, and you can sign up for it. And now I'm going to speak to you as a retiree plaintiff. I want to make it clear I'm not speaking as a member of the board, retirement board. My view of the CSA court actions is a follow-up from the last newsletter. All sides were negotiating several items that I stated at the time were close to being finalized. Of those items, they're now finalized and approved by Judge Barrett. First item was you can do the next slide, please. Plan to maintain healthcare trust and duration of the CSA. This is important because the funding aspect of the thing will go to 2045 to make sure that we have funds there available in the healthcare trust to cover all of our medical benefits that we were promised. The funding of the 115th Healthcare Trust is currently funded at 136%. It's important to having a funding policy to ensure that this healthcare remains fully funded for the duration to 2045. Healthcare matrix for those hired after January 9th, 1997 was a proposed revision to the point system that was currently in place, and it was supposed to be cost neutral, but we knew it wasn't going to be completely cost neutral, but we agreed to allow it to go through because we needed to have the active employees council agree to the funding policy that I mentioned previously. But when we did the analysis using actuaries' documentation, the amount that it cost the system was minimal, so it was really not to really a major detriment to the system itself. The repayment of attorney fees for active employees, according to what was agreed to in a CSA, members of the active class were required to pay back to CRS the attorney fees for the active attorneys. And the actuary fees paid out were based upon what attorneys presented as a percentage of the active class gains from the CSA. The retiree class had nothing to do with the amounts selected that were as far as what's going to be taken up from individuals' pension checks. It was something that was negotiated purely between the active attorneys and the city. The other item I'm going to talk about is IRMA. IRMA stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amounts. It has an impact for both CSA class groups. IRMA started when the city changed our health care program. IRMA is based upon your income, and there are several triggers that cause IRMA to kick in. One is a large withdrawal from your IRA, a large conversion from your Roth, death of a spouse. You get big insurance payments. It could have an impact on your amount of money you'll get from either Social Security or what you have to pay as far as get your health care. Marriage could have an impact on it. A divorce or annulment could have an impact on it. and any other type of settlement payments. The CSA outstanding issues is pension trust fund policy. The city has in the past 2 years committed to increase their funding percentage in the pension trust fund above the minimum 16.25%, which was mentioned previously by other speakers. The city has agreed this year to increase their contribution to 17.75 for both the active and the drop participants. The pension trust is currently at 68.8%. We need this for the city to adopt the CRS Pension Board's recommendation of increasing the city's contribution every year in order to meet the required fully funded level in 2045. That's something we've been working on, trying to get the city council to agree to do that. They won't give us a complete commitment, but they're starting to show some, at least good faith in increasing the contribution. The DROP program is still not resolved as far as everybody is concerned because it has come out to be not cost neutral. But what the city's trying to do is throw a little bit more money in to try to sway the group from canceling the DROP program. And more needs to be discussed as far as that's concerned. It's one of the items that still is outstanding. The other thing is still outstanding is the city's changing our health care without the negotiations. That's an issue that's been argued before the court. We're waiting for a judge to make some kind of ruling on that. When the city changed our health care to the Advantage program, it was not negotiated. And there are some real disadvantages for that for us as retirees, speaking for all retirees, for this occurring. There's some coverage that we had before but we don't have now, and we argued that. There's still some issues with the program involving our prescriptions. Some of the prescriptions that we had in 2014, we no longer can get. And we've been arguing that, and the city's kind of made it look like we're looking for something that is not necessary for our health. And we've been arguing some of these items, even though they're used for some of these drugs, even though they're used for other things, do help our health in other areas. So those are the remaining items that we're still waiting on some answers to from the court system. The court's been very silent for the last 6 months. After we approved the last group of things, there's been no real action being taken from either side. So we're gonna have to kick it up a notch from our side to try to get some conversation to get some of these issues resolved for the betterment of retirees, all retirees. That concludes my presentation. Chuck?
One of the nice things about being the president of this organization is that I can make executive decisions, and that's what I'm going to do right now. We had a presentation about senior scams scheduled. It's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we were going to have questions and answers and so forth. My executive decision is let's do a 2-minute presentation on senior scams and then go directly to questions and answers because you may have that, and we want to try to finish up around 11 o'clock so that people can go home and enjoy the rest of the day. So just let's go ahead and start through the slides, Tim, and we'll just keep rolling. And so another one, Tim, keep going. One of the things, just pause here, this was the impetus or why we started this, because I received an email from a company that wanted to give us a quote to clean our offices. Well, CMERA does not have any offices. We have a post office box, but this company was insistent upon giving us a quote for the cleaning. So obviously, whatever they were up to, it wasn't correct because they said they visited our offices. So good luck with that. So, and let's skip that one. A lot of them. And going, I'll just mention this briefly. This is one where a person calls a scammer calls a person, says, "Hey, I got your nephew. Is in jail. I want $13,000." Gentleman says, I have $13,000, but I have no way of getting the monny to you." The scammer actually hires an Uber driver that goes to the guy's house to pick up the money. The gentleman there doesn't have the money, but he has a gun. Literally shoots the Uber driver dead. He's in jail now for murder, and this has happened 70 miles from Cincinnati. So that's a scam that's gone way off the charts. So, but that's just how crazy they can get at times. Let's go ahead and let's keep going. Some more. All right, one more. A few things I just want to mention, the things you can do to prevent scams, and there's all types. People call you up, and I'm sure everyone's gotten a phone call, "Hey, your bank account's been closed, you got a check from the IRS, you got this issue, give us your bank number, give us your credit card number, give us a finder's fee," whatever the case may be. They're all scams, okay? Some things you can do is you can change your, choose difficult passwords. Just don't put your first name down as a password for something. When you have different accounts, use different passwords for those accounts. Don't leave your passwords out in the open on a sheet of paper, okay? And if you want to go one step further, you can also put a freeze on your credit reports, which will prevent anyone from opening any type of credit in your name. Can we go back one, Tim? Thank you. The other thing you do is just, when you get statements from your banks and credit cards, check them over to make sure everything looks legit on them. You can always ask for advice from a friend. If you're, basically, if something sounds suspicious, it probably is. So, and if somebody's insistent on, donating money to a fund or a political cause or whatever the case may be, ask them to send you the information in the mail. So at least you can have an opportunity to look it over, never give them the credit card. And you can also, obtain free credit reports once a year just to make sure that your credit isn't being affected. Okay, let's move forward, Tim. All right, so let's go again. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the questions and answers. And again, if you can wait for the microphone. The reason we use the microphone primarily because we're being recorded, and we want to make sure that if you just stand up and ask a question, the microphones may not pick it up. So we want to make sure that your question is answered, your question is heard and answered. So let's go ahead. Anyone? Questions from the group? You don't want me to keep talking or anything, do you? Not advised. We have a question. Wait a minute, Steve. Oh, I'm sorry, we have.
Hi, on the presentation on the dental insurance and the potential changes, I noticed you emphasized parts of the program we already have. Do you know if they have, you don't have to give me details, but are they adding parts of the program like periodontal work or something?
Hello?
There's a bump on.
I'll give you mine.
Is it on? Okay. So you're asking, the question is whether there are new benefits or?
Whether there are different parts of dental care that are added, or are they just upping the types we already have in that plus program?
I'll be glad to share this. I've got a more comprehensive breakdown of what all's covered and not covered. I think that the coverage is pretty much the same. I mean, in other words, there's not different services covered by the buy-up plan that aren't covered already. I do note that orthodontics coverage is included in the basic plan for child only, but not covered under the buy-up option. So I'll be glad to just share this with you. And again, it'll be in your mailing.
That's what I was just going to say. Thank you.
There was another question over. This way, wait. You can come up.
Okay. Okay. I have actually two things. I have a question about the newsletter. Is it possible we can opt out of that so you don't have to spend the postage on it? We could just download it from the website? Is there a way we could do that?
Because what?
Okay, we could opt out of getting it in the mail and just download it from the website, which would save you money, and we could...
Could it be done? Yeah, very easily. However, we elected not to do that. And the reason why is because if it's on the website, it's available to everyone, even those who do not pay dues. We believe that there should be certain benefits to those who pay their dues regularly. And the newsletter is one of them. Any member of CMERA can attend this meeting. Any member of CMERA can go on the website and get the information there. But, you know, as far as doing certain things, including the newsletter, that's only for what we would consider active members or dues-paying members. And that's why it's done. Would it save money? Sure, yeah, it would. And I'm not saying it will never happen, but for right now, that's one of the, you know, benefits for being an active or dues-paying member. So.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple questions
And wait a
about.
minute, and you don't like the newsletter? What's wrong with the newsletter? Oh, okay, all right. We work hard on that. I mean, you know. Okay.
My question has to do with the Futures Commission, and I just was wondering two things. One is the option of possibly combining our retirement system with the PERS system. Would the PERS system be open to that? Would they be even willing to take on this group? That's one question. The other question is, if that decision were made, would this group, for instance, have any recourse? Like, what would we do about it if they would make that decision?
At this, from the best of my knowledge, I know that the notion of combining or transferring to OPERS this isn't the first time it's come up. It's been raised before, and it was been dropped because it was too expensive for the city. The city knows that they would have to pay additional money. At least they believe they know. I mean, I don't know if anyone actually from the city has called them and said, hey, would you guys be interested in taking on the cities? I don't know. They have, okay. And I don't know what that answer is. I could guess what it is, but, you know, and if it's a yes, it's going to cost X amount of dollars is my guess. So. But could we do something, let's say if they do decide to proceed with that and it's going to adversely impact, then it would be, then possibly, you know, we would have to look at it, what we can do. I mean, there's only, as a nonprofit organization, we're limited on what we can and cannot do. We might have to start like we did the last time, there was a separate fund for a benefit defense fund that was set up specifically. CMERA money wasn't used to help fight the initial, back there 10, 12 years ago. So.
The city has approached the state to see if the state was willing to take us on. And the state said that we'd have to pay, the city would have to pay all the unfunded liability before they were willing to do so. One of the other things that plays into this whole thing is the CSA. The CSA guarantees certain things as far as our health care is concerned, and it also guarantees certain things as our cost of living increases and so on and so forth. The state would have to be willing to accept those conditions as well. And so far, the state has turned it down. Does that answer your question? And if they would move in that direction, I know the retiree class would be fighting it. And I'm sure the active class would be fighting it as well.
Thank you, Tom.
So if they would decide to convert that over, what would happen to all of our money that's in the retirement system, would they have to turn that over also?
Yeah, that would all be, whatever the pension fund is, it would be transferred to the state.
Our daughter's in that OPERS. Her insurance is horrible. I don't think anybody wants any part of that.
One thing I'll just mention as I'm passing the mic here is that the unfunded liability is now, what, $850 million? I mean,
Tom, you mentioned Irma. Is it the plan that our system would underwrite our extra Irma premiums? I worked, my wife worked. Medicare looks at our adjusted gross income and then whatever we take back out of our IRAs and stuff, and I walk that line, and it's expensive.
Well, the IRMA as far as, what I'm talking about is the IRMA as far as the drug plan itself. When the city put us in this new drug plan, that's when we started paying an additional IRMA, and that's what we're fighting. It's one of the changes the city made that has a negative impact on retirees. And when they went into this program, when we negotiated, we were told that it wouldn't have any impact on retirees, and so we're fighting that part. Income-wise, there's an IRMA for the other Medicare
For Part
component
D.
that it wasn't part of what we're talking about.
Okay, just Part D only. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
By the way, I just noticed this week the Social Security Administration has announced that for those who do get Social Security, there's a 2.5% increase starting in January. However, Medicare has not announced how much they're going to be raising their rates. So, yeah, don't go out and spend a lot of money yet, okay?
I had a question about, is there something that we can do to get the council to amend the requirement of banding a member that's been on the Cincinnati Retirement Trustee? If that's the way I heard, it's like there's a term limit, but there's also a limit that says you can't come back and serve. Is there anything that we can do to get city council to support that? How do we get an amendment to, I'm assuming it's a city ordinance?
You're talking about to extend or allow current, I mean, for
Yeah, current trustees.
trustees of the retirement system.
Like, they can break their service, there's a term limit, but what's the business about not ever coming back? That's not a term limit. That's
so it's actually underway. So the Board of Trustees had an ordinance drawn up that would just eliminate term limits altogether. City Council, it went to Council Committee, like all this stuff does, the process is. The council members on the committee kind of couldn't stomach the idea of never having any term limits. They themselves are subject to term limits. Almost all the city boards and commission, people that serve for the city generally can't serve forever. So it's already underway. There's talk between the board and certain council members. There's a council member, Seth Walsh, who's on the board, who's sort of the conduit for this discussion. And I'm very optimistic that we will find a compromise so that people may serve on the board, serve their 3 terms, sit out a term and then be eligible to serve again, or in the case of some of the active employees who are serving, you know, they now currently, under the current ordinance, face the prospect of serving their 3 terms as an active employee, and then some years later retiring and being ineligible to serve. So the ordinance the discussion involves both of those aspects. So there would not be the lifetime ban. I think if you want to support that, then simply contacting council members. It's actually in the public safety, is it public safety committee? I forget. Yeah, the public safety committee is actually, for whatever reason, that's the committee that's got this. So you could, you know, contact the members of that committee, and you can email them, you can write them letters, you can call them, you can come to their meetings.
I'll try to remember Public Safety Committee.
I'm sorry?
I'll try to remember the Public Safety Committees where it is. Okay. I have another question. Is there anything that we can do to get the Cincinnati Retirement Board their own lawyer so that there's representation? I mean, I was down there when the report came in. I'm sure they paid good money for them to do the review, and one of their recommendations was that you should have your own attorney so there's not a conflict of interest. And then I went back and looked at the retirement meetings that were online, and it's like it's another city process, which is dragging your feet. And so you go from one meeting to another without the answer, and then like the Future Commission, it pops up all of a sudden, and it's just a tactic.
Yeah, we had a number of, we met with the city administration, some of the board members and the city administration, and we discussed that along with other things, other items. We were developing a memorandum of understanding so that we were able to do that very same thing as well as some other things. And a person who was there was a member of the city's law department. Well, she took the stuff back to the city solicitor, and the city solicitor rejected what we agreed to at the meeting. So we're kind of back to somewhat to square one. Well, we have some perimeters that we're going to work with to move forward. So this is another one of those things that's in a item that's in process, and we're hoping to get to that point. But one of the problems we have, even if we have our own attorney, they're contracted through the city, and they'll probably be providing direction from the city solicitor's office anyhow. So we're could be back to square one. But we think at least if we got somebody there, we're going to ask them questions, they can give us some direct answers and not have to funnel it through the city solicitor's office, so we have a better bearing as far as where we are at as far as the board is concerned. Because right now, everything the city solicitor's office is telling us is to the city's favor. You know, whatever the city wants them to tell us. And we need to be somewhat free of that. Even our board, every time we want to try to make a decision, it has to be cleared through the city solicitor's office to make sure we're not doing something illegal. And this is kind of getting crazy. The solicitor's office is controlling the city. Yes, it takes a long time. But we're working on it, is the quick answer to that. It's going to take some time to get to where we need to be. We're hoping we're going to see some improvements in the direction, and to work with the city solicitor's office to see what is acceptable to them and what is not. So we have a clear understanding where they're at. But we're fighting it.
So there's not really anything that we can...
No. No.
Not the city manager?
No. According to the city, it's not the charter, city solicitor represents all departments. So we're pretty well screwed there. So we thought a memorandum of understanding would kind of help us out a little bit. So we're working in that direction.
Does or can CMERA recommend a person for the retirement board, recommend and support? Because one of the requirements is a petition, isn't it, with 25 signatures?
It's, probably, as long as since it's not a political action, probably could. Of course, as far as I know, in the last several years, when there has been an opening for a trustee for the retirement system, there hasn't been the need for an election because there hasn't been that many people. But I mean, it's, but I mean, let's say there were 5 people who were running for retirement trustee. Could CMERA say support? In theory, yes. I don't know, it would be, I don't know, it could be a...
It could be a problem. You really don't, when you get in that kind of situation, you really don't want to get involved with the election process because, like the example was given, you got one position, you got 5 people running. We as CMERA is going to support one person, and they're all retirees. I don't think it'd be good for our organization to do such a thing. The other thing is, one of the things that we're working on with City Council, one of the things Kathy was talking about, is possibly reducing the number of signatures you need. Right now you need 25 signatures, maybe reducing it down to 10 or something like that. Something a little bit more reasonable. If you're an active employee, it's easy to get your 25 signatures. All you got to do is go to your office. There's probably at least 25 employees that work around you. You can get your signatures. Where retirees, you have to go and send things out to different retirees or meet different retirees at different places. And it takes a long time to get 25 signatures. So we got to make it easier for retirees to get the signatures to get on board and run. So those kind of things that we're working on, trying to negotiate with City Council to make it a little bit more easier to run and become a trustee.
Yeah, I could see where if say we had 4 or 5 candidates, that CMERA could put out like a bulletin saying, okay, here are the 5 candidates. These, they're all CMERA members. Here's, and just say, okay, here we've asked them. There's 3 questions that we asked all 5 of them, and here's their answers, and just provide you with that information so you can make a better decision.
I think you're going further than I am. I'm thinking getting that person to the point where they have the 25 signatures to petition to be a trustee. Because this is an ideal situation because you have at least 25 people if they're willing to sign, as opposed to trying to, a retiree attempting to go out and find at least 25 to 30 other retirees to sign that petition. And there, you'd have a larger pool, I would think, of trustees to select from. At least you get to the point where you have an election, as opposed to, well, you had 3 people, we have 3 openings, it's done.
Your point is one that I was just going to add, is that the petition is not the election. The petition simply gets you on the ballot. And so and you can see that we, as CMERA, as the group, hasn't really had this discussion with each other as far as supporting stuff, because there's usually only, usually one person to support, and that's pretty much it, or 2 people for 2 slots. So, personally, and again, we haven't had the discussion, so I'm not speaking for CMERA's board or what have you, but personally, I would support, anybody that wants to petition to be a candidate. And if there are 5, that's wonderful. That to actually have a choice, would be welcome. We need people to be involved with the retirement board, to be involved with CMERA, to be involved with their. So.
I was just curious, has Judge Barrett retired by this time? Well, so...
He's semi-retired.
Okay, well, but my,
Still making some cases, but the workload is reduced drastically.
okay. Just vague memories of different meetings we've had. Is there any role he can play in moving some of these things along that we keep getting stuck with, that he would have more leverage in making happen? Or who's taking over for him for this?
Still currently the judge handling our cases, I should say. And we could go back to the judge and tell him what our problem is, but he still hasn't resolved some of the things we mentioned to him 6 years ago. So the likelihood of him addressing these kind of issues is probably slim to none. He does nothing, nobody can force him to do anything. He's a judge. If he ruled and he ruled against what we want him to, then we could appeal it to a higher court. But right now he hasn't made any rulings, so we can't appeal it. So we're stuck in his court. Yes, yes. But like I said, he hasn't done anything.
Okay, we got any final questions before we conclude today? Not? All right, well, I want to thank everyone for being here today. We appreciate all your, coming here. We appreciate all your paying your dues and so forth to keep us in operation. We plan on having a meeting. I think, Tim, we got one last, next May 10th, I think will be our next meeting here. So we hope to see you then. Meanwhile, check the website for information on chat room and so forth. And we'll stay in touch. As information comes up, we'll pass along to you as best as we can. So thank you all for coming.